Welcome to ArcisFX Live.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us. Hi Emily, thanks for being here. First to the comment section. Firstly, if you haven't already checked out James's trade updates video from today, please make sure you check that out right now. Well, maybe not right now, maybe at the end of the stream, but it's a really good one. Just a brief touch base with some of the markets. It's really good. Make sure you've liked, subscribed, commented and all of that to support the channel. And also, if you haven't already checked out Bitcoin update from earlier in the week, where we look at 2022 versus the current year 2026, also go and have a check of that out. Excuse me, I just dropped my pen. Please check that out. It's a really insightful video into potentially where the bottom could be in the coming weeks. And also, don't forget, of course, if you are liking these live streams, James and I have a joint one every Wednesday. We're moving public now. And also James, of course, has his Sunday night live every Sunday for traditional stocks and commodities. So if you like this sort of thing, make sure you're hanging around on Sunday. It is such a great stream, very popular. But anyway, let's jump into the market. I've been having some problems with my mouse today because it's a magic mouse and it needs charging like every 10 years. And just today was when it ran out. So really fun times. Right, let's have a look firstly what Bitcoin is doing. Any questions you might have about current markets, state of things, anything like that, please drop us a comment and I'll get to them as soon as I can. Context this week, of course, for Bitcoin, this is the 6-hour chart we're looking at, is we had FOMC yesterday. Nothing surprising coming out of there other than a few tips for Jerome Powell's potential successor, but no rate cuts, of course, which we weren't expecting. So everything's pretty much baked in. But as a result, we haven't had any bullish news either to trade off. So let's just jump in with Bitcoin to start with. So this is the 6-hour chart, really clean kind of perspective on the market at the moment. So let's just track 2026 so far. So through most of December, we were stuck below this 3-day 200 MA, which was essentially below 90 and 89K as a resistance range. You put if you put this here, let's have a look. This is essentially what was acting as resistance, 89, 90K. Okay, now as we approach the new year, we had the new year bump and we broke through it, and that was very good. We came back down and retested it. Everything was nice and textbook. Our ideal retracement zone was pre-planned. We had a nice entry level here, and then we moved up towards resistance, but we could not get above resistance. Now, resistance is essentially made up of this range between 100K and around 98.5 or 98K. It's a bit ambiguous, but you can see if we just squish this down, you can see how the price action has been using this level as support, whilst also resistance has also come into it. So that's why it's a bit of a zone. And that's, of course, Bitcoin is nowhere near that at the moment for any chance of that sort of bullish continuation. Hi, Lola, good to see you. So, of course, we then have, unfortunately, just as everything was going really well, then we had a bit of a reset, and we've now lost all of those levels, and we've come back down to essentially where we were throughout December, and now we entered a bear flag again, another bear flag of sorts, and now it looks like we're breaking down as I speak. So let's switch to the 15-minute chart to see what's happening. Let's pick on, here we go. All right, so I was saying earlier in group today that, that we have a very ambiguous support, right? Meaning that when we have ambiguous support, is we have the price action bouncing off this level at 87.5. We have the price action bouncing off this level at 86.5, which is pretty much where we are now. And then we have 84.5 below. So when you have a situation like this, the bulls don't know where to sit. They don't know where to put their positioning. So it's all very spread across, which is very difficult. You can see here, bounce point in December. We came even lower in November. That's 81K. That was the bottom of that very strong markdown we had. Excuse me, move down. Markdown's not the right word. So I was saying to people in the group today that I'm looking to take a position at 84.5. Because ultimately, all of this ambiguous support here, and the fact that we are very bearish, we filled the CME gap. James had some really good insights into this because I posted a chart highlighting the breakdown And then James kindly reminded everybody in the group that there's a CME gap to be filled. So then it's like essentially Bitcoin forgot its car keys. So Bitcoin starts to break down from the bear flag. It forgets it's got to fill the CME gap, and then it comes all the way back up exactly as James predicted, and it touches the CME gap, and then it's now falling down again, and we're losing. Well, we haven't surpassed this 88 below 86k right now, and if you look at this 86k as a line in the sand to be hi MD, good to see you. If you look at this as a line in the sand potentially, so any move below 86k flat is going to give us an indication that we're coming down to 84.5, which is essentially where I want to be here. Not because I think necessarily with certainty we're going to have a bounce from here, but we have had bounces from here, and then below that is 81k. So I want to be in a position that if the price action doesn't bounce from here and it continues to come down to 81k, where we had a bounce from here. Sorry, the 15-minute chart's not the best chart to be looking at for this. I want to be in a position which is manageable. So if I came in earlier today in a position at 87.5k, then I'm going to be stuck right now, right? If I come in at 86.5k, then that is a better proposition in terms of maybe this range, but ultimately we were having very bearish price action, lower highs. All of these reversal patterns just aren't playing out. Bear flags are being broken down with probabilities and so forth. So this is where I want to be down here for the first, for any kind of probable movement. But the point is, though, if it does come down here, I'm entering here. Now, if we then do start to head even further down, this is the area where the bulls are really going to try and have a bit of consistency in moving the price action up, meaning the price action will probably battle a little bit in this area, allowing me to reposition if I feel it's heading lower. Whereas the same can't be said about current positioning, because again, this is really kind of the bottom of the trading range we've been in since December, even though we haven't been down there in a little bit. So really difficult trading with Bitcoin at the moment, because the reality is that, you know, when we have a clear definable breakout of a very clear definable resistance level, then it can even be immediately flipped to support, because the sellers know when to give up and the buyers know when to enter, right? It's as simple as that. But when we've got all of this ambiguity all down here about these levels, just buyers don't know where to go, right? So when we have a bearish scenario, if we've got A, 87.5K, B, 86.5K, and C, 84.5K, the more bearish the market is, which it is quite bearish at the moment, I'm going to opt for C, because it supports the bearish narrative. Whereas if things are a bit more bullish, I'll be looking at A or B, right? And that's how I make these very simple decisions about where I want to be. It doesn't guarantee that Bitcoin isn't just going to fake out now and just reverse, right? It could very well easily do that, but I don't care about that. I only want to catch moves, which of course I can manage. And moves right here, right now, are very difficult to manage. And there are for some people saying, of course, we're going to get a bounce from here, but again, why is a buyer going to come up here? It's not very manageable, and this is the problem Bitcoin's got at the moment, right? And you can see the volume really picking up. So interesting to see where that lands. Just have a quick look at some comments. Let me just have a sip of coffee. Right, what we got? Lola, good to see you. MD, yeah, thanks for being here, my friend. It wouldn't be a live stream without you. Dana, likewise, good to see you too. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, well, you know, it's my life working with teenagers. You've got to find some kind of angle to sell it to them, right? Anyway, so we've got some pretty good viewership today. So that's Bitcoin. We'll keep you tracked on that. And again, it's this very simple. It's very difficult. I don't want to be able to just sit here and say, well, we need to wait for more structure. But ultimately, that's what we need to do. We need to wait for more structure ultimately, and it's a bit of a waiting game. Yeah, thanks for please everybody drop your questions in the chat box. Happy to answer as many questions as I possibly can, but let's now just talk about the headline of this live stream, which was a new trading strategy. So let's just jump into that for a minute and discuss that. Now, a little bit hyperbolic, if I'll be honest, but this is XRP, right? Now, ultimately, this doesn't replace good TA or anything like that. This is simply a way of structuring your mindset, right? Now, some of you more experienced traders will look at this, will like, well, duh. But for beginner to intermediate traders who are trying to find something to hold on to, right, a ledge of some kind to structure their thought process and their planning for trades, right? Because if you imagine a lot of retail traders, they'll they'll maybe have some charting abilities. They'll see a chart or someone else's chart and they'll think, oh, Bitcoin's coming at support or XRP is coming to support, and then they'll make an entry. But successful trading is so much more than that, right? It's a process of consideration, of escalation and decision making based on what you see in any given moment, especially with volatile asset classes. So now I'm going to firstly give credit to one of my students here. Now, of course, it's one of those things where I would teach the student all about these principles and then they come back with a better idea. So the whole process, this whole traffic light system is a psychological thing. So red is the break we're looking for. Right now, you could look at red as being the color of blood because it's buyers and sellers battling it out ultimately, right? So it's the battle, the red, right? Price action breaks out. We're waiting for confirmation. So stop, wait for confirmation, right? So but we've seen, this is what we're waiting for. This is the first signal we're getting. So, okay, XRP is breaking above the 200 MA. It's not, but that's what we want it to do. It's breaking above the 200 MA. Great. Now, what's my criteria? What's my confirmation criteria for me to then think about an entrance? Because I'm not just going to, because we're not in the market conditions where I can just buy the breakout, right? I'm just not going to do that. Okay, so we need confirmation. So what do I need to see from XRP to make me then have an entrance, right? We're not talking about where the entrance will be. We're just like, what do I need to see? So obviously we don't want to see a small move where it just essentially just does this, where XRP just breaks out, pops its head above, and then heads back down. We don't want to see that. We're not going to trade that, right? It's not a significant enough of breakout. We want to see a move at least up to the top of the previous trading range, some kind of significant move, which is going to, of course, get a bit of distance before the breakout point, and then that then would fill the entry criteria. So if we see the sort of move we want with volume, which would be for XRP a move up here, a significant move above the 200 MA, which would give the sellers a chance to be exhausted as it heads down, and then buyers to pick up the baton, essentially. And then all we then need to consider, once we've fulfilled what our entry criteria needs to be, we then say to ourselves, right, so where's that entry? Now, our entry, of course, is going to be based on how bullish or bearish the market is, right? I'm sorry, I'm wandering my left hand around as well. James has been telling me about that. Now, in the case of XRP at the moment, the market is trying to find its feet, but the market is very bearish, right? So we have a lot of this stop-start moves. So we have a breakout and then it fully resets. And we have to acknowledge that is the current market weather. And in order to successfully trade it, we need to ultimately consider those factors. And it goes back to what I was saying about Bitcoin, where we had those three support lines, right? Which one do we enter? Well, if the market's really bearish, we enter the bottom one, right? If the market is neutral, we look for the middle one. If the market is bullish, we look for the top deck. That's essentially how it works. Now with XRP, we know things in the market are just going, we're just getting bullish momentum and then it's stopping, because Bitcoin is stop-start, it's having a move, then it's rolling over. And we have to acknowledge that's the case. So because that is the system that the market is giving us at the moment, our entry isn't going to be necessarily as textbook as it would be if we're in a bullish situation, which might be that, which would be red, the breakout, orange, yellow, excuse me, orange, the amber, there we go, amber, the confirmation, right? So what do I need to see on the break to make me enter, right? So I need to wait for the break, I need to wait for my confirmation criteria, and then I've got to figure out my entrances. So again, if the market's quite bullish, then it's going to be textbook. It's going to be right. We're breaking above this range. We're breaking above the 200 MA. I've got my confirmation. I'm coming on the flip side. Textbook, SR, flip, play. But the market isn't like that at the moment. It is resetting all the time. So I have therefore got my entry not right down here where we are at the moment, but quite firmly at the top of this support range, meaning that we're going to have a bit of a retrace beyond the 200 MA once we've had the confirmation. Now, you might be saying to yourself, well, hang on a minute, that doesn't make any sense, because if you're trying to trade the SR flip of the 200 MA, then why are you looking to enter when it's been lost again? Well, the answer to that is very simple. When we have these difficult market conditions, or maybe not simple, but when we have these difficult market conditions, volatile assets do this. They will have the break, and then they'll come back, lose it, get liquidity, right? They'll get liquidity, and then they'll reverse. And ultimately, what we're trying to achieve here is not a textbook play. We're trying to simply attract more buyers to this position and then capitalize on that. So I want more buyers to come in here, because right now they're probably leaving in droves. But a break above the 200 MA is a bullish signal, which then allows me to come back in around current levels, right? But on the back of a bullish signal, as opposed to being stuck in price action, which is slowly bleeding lower. And therefore, the approach, this break confirmation entry, red, amber, green, can be very helpful in making you, one, consider firstly, what's the point where you're going to pay attention to the trade. Two, the specific criteria you need to ensure that your entry is fulfilled correctly in terms of, you're waiting for a sizable break, right, in order to, to bring in more buyers and give yourself a bit of a retrace. And then the third thing is the current market conditions. What should the entry be? And if you know the market is constantly going up and then resetting, then of course you consider that point, and then you have these three things. Really straightforward. So I wait for my break, I look what I'm seeing. If I see that, I then put my entrance on. That's how it works, and it can apply to anything. And here's BCH, right? Which again is rolling over now, but BCH has had a potential double bottom. And the idea would be that we acknowledge that the market is not in a position where BCH is going to be able to get above this level. We acknowledge the fact that it's probably at the very least following a break going to retrace a little bit deeper than we expect it in the textbook. And therefore, red, that's my break point. That's what I want to see. I want to see a move back up to this swing high at the very least, ideally even higher. That's my confirmation. And then I look to come in my entry, which of course is quite conservative and quite low down, because again, as we can see here, the market is very risky. And the reason why I'd want to come in here with BCH is just in case of this, because ultimately BCH will probably give me that bearish retest and come all the way down and to give me that exit. So it's all about management, and this system can add a little bit of clarity to your mental state in order to facilitate that. So that is essentially the trading traffic light system, which here at Arcis we're looking at in terms of the volatile asset classes. And hopefully that can be supportive of just framing your planning, because anyone can trade textbook plays which happen in a bullish market, right? So you've got an uptrend, then you've got a bull flag, and then it just breaks out and you can just buy it and everything goes. But that's not the market conditions at the moment. So we need a kind of system to play off. So break, confirmation, entry, boom. Start using this on your chart, start using this on your planning, and I guarantee you'll have more clarity over your setups, and you'll enter less risky trades because you're really considering what a setup should be. Right, let's have a look. MD, you would like me to look at Solana. Now, Solana, I've been doing a lot of work on today, because now I think I'm a bit worried actually, because I tend to design and work on the thumbnail for Altcoin Gems, which is out tomorrow, and decide essentially roughly what the picks are going to be for tomorrow. But I have a feeling that the market's going to mess me around a minute, and I may have to redo my setups, which looks like Sol is doing. But this is Sol, so this is such a pain. I'm just literally working on the thumbnail. Okay, so here's Sol. We have this cup and handle which Sol had, and cup and attempted handle, and we started to break out in the mid-January, and then the markets rolled over. Now we're back at support. Now, prior to just a moment ago, this is essentially where we were, right? We had a double bottom on the RSI. We had a confirmed break above on the RSI, and then it came back down to retest let's just make it bigger so we can see. And then it came back. The RSI is doing some weird things, and then it had come back down to retest this, but it's changed now for some reason. Oh no, I know why, because it's the replay. So yeah, it had come back down to retest. We had a double bottom on the RSI, which is just essentially a hidden double bottom of sorts, and we were coming back to retest this key support level, much like we did here. We dipped all the way back down here, recovered, retested, consolidated, and then moved up. And this is essentially the play which I'm planning to talk about with Altcoin Gems tomorrow. But unfortunately, as you can now see, this setup may be in the process of invalidating now as well. But we do now have a double bottom on the price action. So we'll see how this works out. But ultimately, we don't want to be entering a trade here until we can regain this support level, which is anywhere, I suppose, between 119 and 121. But ultimately, Sol is really struggling, but we are at the bottom of the range, which is why it's a trading opportunity. And of course, if we do get a position here, right, then this is of course where we'll take profits. But we need it to establish itself. And this double bottom at this level, which we might be seeing now, we don't want to front run play that. So we just, maybe that'll be a double bottom, and then we just want to see that move again, and then we can look to accumulate. It's going to be a bit of a risky play, so it's going to be a small position, and it's the sort of thing that you might want to add to as things progress. But ultimately, we were getting this recovery signal, and we were looking to come in on the flip side for that, but it seems to be rolling over at the moment. So that's the situation with Sol. But let's see what Bitcoin does, because ultimately we need Bitcoin to find its feet, and it's not at the moment. So it looks like I'm going to have a very busy day tomorrow redoing thumbnails and stuff. But that's Solana. Let's have a look. Yes, let me have a quick look. Let me just check my feed just for a minute, because when I'm streaming, I haven't got the. Let's just have a look at my up to date. Let's have a look. Nope, can't see anything like that. Let's have a quick look at my aggregator. Here we go. So what we got today, it's Thursday. No, it's just employment claim. Is that out yet? Let's have a look. Oh yeah, we have got the employment claims. Not seeing anything drastic. I need to jump into that. US CFD chair is speaking right now. Mr. Trump is speaking a bit later. Let me just check my other news feeds to see if something's happened. Just for everybody. But I'm not surprised. I think I'm not surprised by what's been happening. Let's have a quick look. Here we go. SEC issues. Breaking. I can't see anything immediately. I don't want to waste the stream while you just watch me browsing. But yeah, interesting about that. I'll have to get into that a little bit later. If anyone's got any news which I've missed, please let me know. But let's run through some of these setups, which are probably in the point of invalidating right now. Let's have a look. Okay, so this is TRX USDT daily chart. Now, the interesting thing about TRX, and you can probably see right now what I'm talking about. When you're looking at, say, Bitcoin right now is heading lower, right? But TRX is holding its own. Now, this may struggle to maintain the pressure, but we have a setup here, which is essentially on the back of this double bottom and this strong breakout move and the flip of the 200 MA. Now, because as we've talked about earlier with XRP, we're getting a lot of this start-stop sort of price action. So my entrance is here, right? My planned entrance is here at 0.2886, hoping to catch a wick, an invalidation wick back to the double bottom neckline for then a reversal. And yes, technically we'll be losing the 200 MA just briefly, but this is not something which is relatively abnormal, because again, when we see interactions with these moving averages, we do get dips first before, here again, dips first before we move around. So when in hesitant markets, I'm kind of keen to make sure I've got a position right at the point of invalidation. So if I do get a wick down here, I'll have to assess what Bitcoin is doing. But if Bitcoin arrives at local support at about 84.5K, which is on track to, then maybe we've got something here. But again, now we haven't got much structure. The pressure's on for TRX as well. But you see it's holding its own at the moment, but this is a play ultimately just to the top of here. So it's just going to be a range play, very modest. We're not looking to take profits up here at the moment because the market's just not giving us that. But again, I'm not going to enter my TRX position unless I see some stability from Bitcoin. But the lower Bitcoin goes at this point, the more likely it is we're going to have, that's BCH, excuse me, the more likely we're going to have a bounce. So let's just see if any divergence is popping up as well, just to give us a sense of what's happening. Right, so there's 7 points of divergence. So this is giving me a little bit of credibility that 84, we could see a bounce at 84.5 or from where we are. Let me just put the RSI on, because this is me negotiating whether or not to enter my TRX trade. Because of course we do want to enter as an example, it'd be great to enter TRX here, and then if we do get a bounce into this area, then of course we get a move we want. So it's always a bit tricky, but I really prefer some more structure from Bitcoin. All of these sell-offs are not particularly helpful. Let's just put the other RSI on. Let's have a look. What is, all right, okay, right. So here we go. Let's see what's going on. Sort of megaphone pattern sort of thing. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna let's zoom. Let's look at the 15-minute chart, see how we're doing on the 15-minute. This is the process of assessing what's going on. Yeah, not enough structure yet. So this is the thing, folks. we want to see, we've got some divergence popping up, which is pretty natural for a move like this. But again, if we're arriving at 84.5K and it's not giving me anything and it's just rolling down, then that's a problem for me. Whereas if we see buyers start to take control around here, then it makes a bit more sense to try to come in here. But a bit tricky at the moment, folks, for trading positions. And what I can tell you is I will do, even if I do get some confluence on Bitcoin a little bit later today, and it starts to bottom out on the 15-minute chart, I will want to see that, make sure that divergence is maintained on the higher time frames for me to enter here. So, and of course, but here's the thing, I am going to reduce my position size regardless of whether I enter or not here, because of the just the bearish signals we're getting at the moment, although TRX is holding its own. So that's the way I would play it at the moment. Do we have any altcoins with potential short trades? Well, Bitcoin. Let's have a look. Bitcoin for sure. Well, let's see. I'll see if I can find some shorts. I've been very hesitant to post short trades. Now, this might be a bit paradoxical, because where do we need Bitcoin to be for shorts, right? So we know Bitcoin's bearish, right? Current market conditions are bearish, at least for now, right? But where do we want to be for a short? We don't want to be here approaching support, because the probabilities of a short playing out are reduced significantly, because the closer we get down to, say, around here, 81K, the chances of buyers picking up and then invalidating our short play is. So we need the market to be bearish like it is, but we need Bitcoin to be at resistance. So ultimately, the best shorting position at the moment is going to be between around 91 and 90K. Just switch back to the 15-minute chart. It's more clear on this chart. So this is where we want to be up here, right? 90 to 91K for a short play, right? You can see how that would have played out from this, right? And unfortunately, that's over now. So now we know the bearish narrative is continuing, and then we just need to wait until we're up here. So there's no point in me posting short setups right now, because Bitcoin is in the right position. So it's always a bit of a tangle. But once we do start approaching these levels, I'll post some more short setups. But let's look at hype for a moment. You're very welcome, MD. Thank you so much for being here again. Always insightful questions. So this is hype. We had a double bottom which was invalidated, and all of a sudden we've had a big spike, and we've moved up to this upper range. Now, I'm not particularly interested why that spike happened. All I care about now is providing an opportunity, and other people will be looking for the same. So again, let's look at this. How bullish or bearish is the market? So if the market was super bullish, then we could be looking at $28 to come in flush with a textbook play with a bounce at the neckline. Now, that may still happen, right? Because this is a strong move, right? And this is still a significant retrace. But because we're off the back of what you could argue is a fake chock or a liquidity hunt down here, you have to be a bit suspicious of this move. So if you're suspicious, then you've got $26 as the area to come in on, right? And I'll obviously assess where Bitcoin is at the moment. If Bitcoin is where I want it to be, at support with structure, and when hype comes down to 28, then I'll take a position. If not, I'll be waiting for 26. Or if it's ambiguous, excuse me, if we're going to go up from here, I'll scale in with a small portion of my position, add a bit more there, and hopefully to scoop it up. So hype is offering an opportunity simply because of the back of this move, and would hope to see quite a few buyers starting to come in here regardless just simply of this move. And when we are struggling to find trading opportunities, you'll find that anything which moves draws a lot of attention from the market, and people will want to try and take positions, but not a position up here, not a position to take profits up here. It'll just be very much get in here, take profits here at the previous swing high, and that sort of it. So hype is an opportunity, and I'll probably discussing this in more detail tomorrow. BCH was potentially a setup which is invalidating, unfortunately, so we have to leave that to one side. Let's just close that down now. Now ZEC. Okay, so I just touched base with ZEC today in terms of what the project's doing. Now, the simple way to put it is that, of course, the dust has settled a little bit for Zcash, and we're of course trying to find its feet. And you could argue that ZEC is pretty oversold, considering all of the internal politics of that particular project. And for the first time, so this is the 200 MA on the 4 hour, and we had a bit of a fake out here, but we've had a nice strong break above the 200 MA, and the idea would be to look to come in on the flip side ultimately. And the RSI has reset a little bit, suggesting that we could. But again, now Bitcoin's heading lower. We're coming in, we're losing that traction at that support at the 200 MA. But again, if it is just a little bit of a dip, right, for ZEC, then coming in here isn't a bad idea, right, like this, and just taking profits up here on the back of this move. But again, it's all a little bit risky. It's very much like we were just looking at with hype. In fact, we had this dip down, lower low, then a higher high. And the only clue of potential reversal here is the RSI has almost reset, whereas the price action hasn't, giving a little bit of support to a move up from here. And we had the higher high. So, and ZEC, obviously, people are paying attention to ZEC because it has been a top performer last quarter of 2025. So there will be people looking as an opportunity now the dust is setting from the politics, but ultimately it's very challenging. And if we look at Bitcoin dominance at the moment, so again, I'll be taking a small, I will be, yeah, I need to see what Bitcoin does now, but I'll be looking to add a small position here if I can. But I need to wait and see what happens first. But again, the more Bitcoin is bearish, the smaller my position will be. Let's have a quick look. Where are we going? Bitcoin dominance is what I wanted to look at. Let's have a look at Bitcoin dominance. Set your timers, folks. See how long it takes me to find it. There we go. Got it. So Bitcoin dominance is actually being a little bit odd as well, because we have, this is essentially the place we want to be entering altcoin longs at resistance. And you can see that it looks like the price action, the indices action, excuse me, is starting to look a little bit more in favor of altcoin movement, but Bitcoin is the factor. So Bitcoin dominance is in a bad place, right? Potentially to, I mean, probably up the top of the range here. You want to wait till you're around 60 to 59.9 to come in on. But, you know, this is the move we're looking for, and this will add money into the altcoin market. But the problem is we don't just need Bitcoin dominance to be where it's supposed to be, or we don't just need total 3 to be where we need it to be, which it is. We need total 3 to be at support. We need Bitcoin dominance to be at resistance, where it kind of is. And we need Bitcoin to be with a bullish posture at support, which it is not, because it keeps rolling over. And therefore, the third element of what we need for successful altcoin trading, just Bitcoin is just not giving us what we want, right? And this is ultimately the problem at the moment. It's making it very difficult to trade. So as I was saying in group, my strategy at the moment is ultimately very cautious trading, being a very acknowledging, of course, that we've had these resets, right, from the price action, and everything keeps going up and then down again. And then you have to observe that, right? And then you have to realize, okay, so it's not textbook plays. I am looking to wait for a bullish confirmation, look to enter, but be very conservative with your entrances. And you should be looking almost to come in at a similar place to where the price action broke out from, because that's just what the market's giving us. And this is Bitcoin daily chart now, and you can highlight, we had, if you look on the MACD, I don't often use the MACD, we had the golden cross or a bullish cross or whatever. Once we had that, the bottom kind of stopped in the back end of November, and now just over the last week or so, we've had the sell signal as well, which is extremely unhelpful for Bitcoin, which is why I had this ideal retracement zone here, which is essentially made up between around 85 and 83K. So again, this is where we want Bitcoin to be in order to enter a long trade, but it's not there yet. So it's a waiting game. So it's very, very frustrating ultimately for trading at the moment. And Ethereum, here we go. So this is good, right? So Ethereum is starting to enter our long zone, right? And there's a potential play for Ethereum starting around 2,700, but we need to wait. And again, we need, of course, Ethereum is waiting for Bitcoin as well. But here's the thing, Ethereum versus Bitcoin, it's not really being touched right now. So if you are looking to trade Ethereum, maybe edge towards the BTC pair, because it's very good at absorbing Bitcoin's downside momentum, because of course when Bitcoin heads lower and at a faster pace than Ethereum, then Ethereum essentially is going to hold sit pretty or go up. So if you are thinking of trading Ethereum, maybe trade the Ethereum BTC pair. That might prove a little bit better and supportive. And the same goes for all these other assets as well. There's many different trading pairs other than USDT, and in these difficult market conditions, looking for some of those pairs. I don't know, Solana paired with Monero, or Monero paired with Solana. They can give you trading opportunities, of course, outside of the traditional tether. Now, the reason why I don't look at those too often is because they're not widely available on lots of mainstream exchanges. But if the market continues to be in turmoil like this, then we'll always try to find our edge elsewhere. And if that means we're trading more old school BTC pairs, then that's what we'll move to. And likewise, once we start seeing, once Bitcoin starts approaching key resistance levels, then of course we'll be looking for some short setups as well. But everything has to have the right time. Okay, so this is just touch base with this. If you haven't checked out Bitcoin update from earlier, in the earlier in the week, this is what we were talking about, right? This is the 2022 bear market, and this is now. Really straightforward, cycle top, and everything is being mirrored very similarly. And we were just talking about on Tuesday how, look, this is again confirmation of a move lower. This is exactly what happened in 2022 with the price action bottoming out, essentially approaching the top of the bull market prior to that, which peaked around 19K. So if Bitcoin follows a similar pattern this year, you can see, and 69K was the top of the previous bull run before this one, which obviously was the top before this bear market on 2022, then we could be looking at a move to around 69 or 64, 69, 67. James is pretty set on 67K at the very least, and that's pretty modest ultimately. And if we just switch to this chart, where is it? I'm just going to find it. Here we go. So this is Bitcoin monthly Bollinger Basis cross. Now, unfortunately, it's not looking good right now. Let's have a look. So the idea with this is that historically, whenever the price action crosses the basis line of the Bollinger Bands, right, what we see is the final phase of the bear market being entered. Okay, so we see it here back in 2014, and we cross the basis line, and then we come all the way back down to the orange line. Even further, actually, the yellow line hasn't been formed, and then we start the bull market again. Now, this is again 2019, and we cross the Bollinger Band on the monthly chart. We get that candle body close, and then we come back down and bounce off the weekly. That's 3K there. This was the pandemic crash, just to highlight this. And then, of course, the previous bull run back in 2021 peaked around 69K, and then once we had that monthly cross below the Bollinger Basis line, then we headed all the way back down to the yellow line, which was around bottomed at 16K, but 19K, of course, was the previous top, and that's why it did that. And here we are again. And that it creates and so it's been messing around in this area for a while now, but we have had a kind of body close below it, and it looks like potentially this month is going to, we've only got 2 days left, right? And this will be another candle body, a more clearer candle body close below this line, because the other one is straddling it. And then we could see further downside, which is giving us a potential buy zone between 56 and 43K, 57 and 44K based on this system. So we are firmly in a bear market at this point. But what does this mean? It means the great buying opportunity is just around the corner. And because the bull market, if we just go back to this other chart we had, where is it? Thanks for your patience, everybody. Just see if I can find it. There we go. So if you go back to this chart, right? This in 2022, this was April, right? We're in January, which means that this supports the narrative that we may have a shorter, sharper bear market before then a reversal and a bottoming, maybe a little bit closer to the back end of H1 and the second quarter. And that will just present a tremendous buying opportunity for us here to stack up on Bitcoin, because ultimately, Bitcoin has come up, right? It's had 2.5 years. Look at this. This is what Bitcoin's been doing since January 2023, right? It deserves just a little bit of a pullback, right? It deserves a pullback. It needs a pullback. It's perfectly natural, right? So Bitcoin's not over, right? Look, it's going up, and I do believe it'd be 1 million for sure, right? There's no issue about that, right? But we've had a difficult 2025, so it was very inhibiting to risk assets and to Bitcoin as a store of value. And so we didn't get a blow off top. We didn't get anything like that. And unfortunately, it looks like we are coming back down. But this now is a great opportunity, right? This is a fantastic opportunity to look now to start accumulating at these lower levels. Essentially, Bitcoin, half price Bitcoin, right? Half price Bitcoin, and that could be in just a few months away. And you have to ask yourself: is institutional adoption going to allow Bitcoin to descend much lower than these areas? I think probably 57K is very low for me. I mean, 49K I can get on board with, but certainly I can see Bitcoin just stopping at around 69, 67K, that area, and then going up from here, because there's a lot of institutional adoption. There's a lot of money. People just, but it needs to come back. It needs a pullback. So it's nothing to be scared about, but this is just natural price action, but it's presenting a tremendous opportunity, of course. So let's just touch base if there's anything else So again, if you're looking for a good buying opportunity, again, coming in for Bitcoin as well. If you look at the multiple time frames, this box again, 85 to 83K, we could see something there. Same with Ethereum. So, buy red, sell green, right? And here's XMR. This is Monero, which is almost, again, talking about this complete reset we were just talking about, right? Up and then reset, right? Right now, the market isn't going to be like a textbook play for XMR would be, it breaks up, it comes down, people start taking entrances in the golden zone, right? And then we reverse from there. That's really, really bullish, right? But unfortunately, the market's just resetting all the time. So, you can see I've got my entrance down here, right? I'm looking to scoop up XMR, exactly the same place it kind of launched from, right? So lots of opportunities. Now, it's not a guarantee that XMR is going to bounce from here, but it's 100% retrace almost, right? And if Bitcoin and then also approaching its support, this is an opportunity. So you want to be paying attention to these charts as well, because my strategy at the moment is hard support buys, right? Just buying it at support, which is very manageable, even if the price action heads lower. So XMR, good opportunity coming. Same with ICP. Now, this was unfortunately an altcoin gem last week, which because of the bearish price action, you can see a really textbook setup, talking about textbook setups not playing out, right? We had double bottom, broke up to the upper range, which typically would mean guaranteed buy showing up on the neckline here, especially with 50 MA confluence. But again, Bitcoin's pulled the market down, so it's our second entrance, right? Coming in at hard support, very manageable play. Here's the October crash. This has been long support. So again, coming in with small positions for ICP. This is looking pretty good as well. We've talked about IOTX. Link, again, I mean, this is as bullish as a bit of a reset, but look, Link is giving us opportunity. We haven't been this low since June 2025. No one's saying throw money at the market right now, but taking small positions, right, and then adding to it as the bullish signals stack up if we do get a reversal is the play here. But you don't want to necessarily miss these lower price points. But again, where are you coming in? Where are you coming in with Link, right? How bullish is the market, right? If it's a bullish market, we're coming in at 11. If it's a neutral market, we're coming in at 10.7. If it's a bearish market, we're looking to come in at 10.5. That's the way you got to do it. It's a really simple equation, right? There you go. That's where we come in, right at this bottom end, right? Give yourself a lot of opportunity to manage that. Here we go. And it looks like our short setup Lola is actually playing out with TRX as well. We had two positions, a long and a short. So let's have a quick look again. Yeah, AVAX, that's resetting a little bit. Not really an opportunity there. Aave, that again is a difficult position, but it is at long-term support. You can see there's a lot of buyers coming up here. So there is a play. It's hit our target zone as well. We do have the 200 MA overhead, but again, these low prices, difficult to ignore for sure. And this has been a foundation for a good few months now. We could roll over for sure, but ultimately, how do we manage these trades? It's not about guaranteed wins. It's about being in a position where if it goes down, we can get out at no loss. And that's the whole game. HBAR, well, again, see, that's the danger, isn't it? It's rolling over as well. So you do want to look for divergence or some kind of confirmation signal as well. BNB, again, I would say with BNB, we've got a setup waiting to play out here. 821 entrance is looking pretty good. But again, how bearish is the market? How bullish is the market? So this is, again, an ambiguous support and resistance range. So I don't think, I mean, BNB has been a top performer as well. So you might say, okay, 822 might be a little bit bullish, but 807 I can work with, right? That makes sense, right? So we can do that. This is where you need to look at it. There's BTC again. So yeah, we've got everything we need other than Bitcoin, which is very, very, very frustrating. But here's just that big picture again, right? Golden cross, death cross, bear flag. Here's the first sort of potential place where people are going to be looking to take. Well, yeah, I mean, MD, you're saying, yeah, we expect a bounce now. Yeah, for sure. But we're talking about, like, is this going to be the bounce or is this going to be just a recovery bounce? And ultimately, when you look at charts like this, right, what is it telling you? I mean, really on the higher timeframes, buyers aren't going to come down here. We haven't even had the measured move yet of the bear flag, right? And the measured move of the bear flag pretty much takes us approaching 74K, which is the top of this range, right? So I think we need to be just very mindful that we can be taking small positions to trade the range which Bitcoin is in, right? That's fine. There's no problem. Just make sure, of course, you're trying to catch the bottom and you're not coming in too prematurely, right? Which is very difficult when there's ambiguous. There's a lot of ambiguity over these support levels because it's difficult to know where buyers are going to come in on. But when you look at the high time frames, you can see where we're going. Right, there's no reason to think right now we're going to have a strong recovery because all of these resistance areas. And that's not to say that's not going to happen, but you have to look at it like this. So when am I going to when are people going to start buying more Bitcoin? Right? When are people going to really start buying more Bitcoin for long-term investments? Right? When are people going to do that? Starting in this area, 74 to 69K, right? And then of course below that we've got this other range as well. But people will start to do that then, whereas now we're not going to have that. So we're going to have these little trades, not much volume for sure. Right, and there's nothing wrong with that. So here we go. This is what I was saying I want to be. We've got divergence. Well, the divergence is evaporating a little bit. But again, this is one strong candle, which I want to see do something different. So I do need to see, I'm not going to catch a falling knife, right? So I need to see something like this, right? And then I'll look to come in, right? No one should be just hard buying this right now, okay? Maybe here, you could maybe hard buy 80K. That's maybe a possibility. But right now, we need some structure. So not a bad place. But we need to see something, and right now it's just a waiting game. Don't try and catch a night because you'll just get bloody ultimately. Link oversold. I was looking at a link actually. It hasn't been actually taking my fancy, to be honest. Let's have a look. Yeah, but this is the problem, right? I think you can probably see the problem with Link, right, compared to what we've been looking at today, right? So if you look at the big picture with Link, this is just a 4-hour chart. Yeah, this is support. This is where we've been, right? Okay, so about $10, $10 to $11, right? That makes sense, but we can come as low as 10 flat for sure, right? And the problem is here, this is where we've been trying to reverse from since November, and now we're losing those levels, right? Because even though this is long-term support in terms of the big picture, this has been local support for the last few months, and therefore we've lost that. And that means we have a bearish narrative because, again, it's difficult for bulls to come in here at this point because it's a level lost. Whereas if all of this had moved down and this had been the basis of all these moves up, then, of course, we go. So what we want to look for, of course, is assets which are not invalidating a bullish premise, which Link is right now. And the hard support buys are going to come if you've got parity with the last few months' price action, meaning that if Link had been bouncing off 10.7 consistently at these points, and now we're revisiting it for the first time in a month, then that's a good play with a small position. But because we've got that, so it's, all these hard support buys are not all created equal. And let's just see if I can find just a better example. But here's a good example. So here's ICP, again, invalidated setup, unfortunately. But look, this is where we've bounced off. This is where a reversal has formally been created. And therefore, a move all the way back down to 2.770 doesn't invalidate the bullish context, right? We're still at support. And therefore, this would be a better setup than Link because we haven't had any kind of invalidation. We haven't lost those key levels yet. So it goes back to, again, these conditions we were talking about at the start, which we want to see in order to enter. Let's have a quick go through. Yeah, I mean, yeah, fun times right now in the market, I tell you. Fun times. That's looking nice. Again, if you look at this chart, right, and someone was to say, where do you think Bitcoin's going to stop? Some of you would say 84.5 for sure, but I don't like when you enter it. Like, here's the thing, right? 84. How many buyers are at 84.5? Well, I can tell you because not many right now because it's not moving. If anything like this, you should see something like this, like down and up really quickly, right? And we might still see that, but ultimately, this isn't giving me the confidence because if this was a significant level, right, which I was looking at, of course, to come in on, right, you're going to see the price, the bulls are going to start front running entrances here, and you're going to see the price action just do this, right? At least then you have a soft landing. This is like catching a knife, and therefore you look at this and you think about that probabilities. 81K is looking a little bit tasty. So everything's contextual. It's how you arrive is very important. You knock on the door politely, you're going to kick the door down. It's one of those things. So anything else we need to look at? But yeah, it's a shame because total is in a great place. But what we don't want to see for the altcoins, right? Have a look at the altcoins. Yeah, we'll have a look at the liquidity maps. So sure, let's do that. Let's have a go. We don't want this moving average to be. We don't want this moving average to be locked out. We don't want to lose this ultimately. And so right now, you can look at accumulating altcoins at key levels simply on this premise that we haven't lost mainstream support on the total 3 ES index, right? But if we do start to lose that, then it's a really challenging environment, right? Because we're just waiting on Bitcoin. But if Bitcoin continues going lower and people are running from the market scared, then of course this is then really our in a bit of a pickle. But let me just try and let me just play you a little promo video for a minute while I go and find some liquidity maps for you. I'll be right back.
Hi there, I'm James. I'm the founder of ArcisFX. I'd like to personally invite you to join our 24/7 trading group. This is built for traders who want an edge. Inside, you'll get access to live calls on Forex, commodities, crypto, energies, and metals, along with exclusive daily analysis designed to unlock your trading potential. And this in both traditional and now in digital markets. I'm talking Bitcoin, crypto, altcoins, and tethered currencies. You'll gain early access to insider news, real-time updates, real-time support, and premium educational content. If you want to sharpen your skills and boost your success rate, then join me and Paul in this community. This is a fast-growing community of traders who are now writing their own success stories. So don't wait. Join up now. Your edge starts right here.
Cool music. That was a choice by James. Really cool. Right. Okay. So let's have a quick look at this, and we'll use this to end on. Now, obviously, we're experiencing a price move at the moment, and therefore, we have to look at that in context. But look, what is exactly happening right now? Okay. So this is Model 3, which is a little bit more adaptable. So let's have a quick look. Okay, so you can see this ambiguity of buying, right? People don't quite know where to go, but the problem is, and I was talking about this earlier, so I was looking at 84.5, right, which is here. We've got buyers here around 83.5, but now the price action is eating into them. And then what's below us now? What's below us? Well, again, there's a slither here around 81K. Now, of course, that's going to shore up once Bitcoin establishes itself, right? Because right now, if people aren't going to be like entering new positions, or they're going to wait to see what happens. But you can see we're eating into all those buyers at the moment, and the sellers are just kind of like, well, there's not much to do right now. But this is it, 90 to 91K. This is where the sellers are stacking, and you see Bitcoin has got a lot of work to get back up there. So we're not really seeing. As a quick look at Model 1, which is less reactive. It's just we need to find its feet, but we're running out of, the buyers are evaporating. These were the key levels, and therefore we need more structure, and then people will start to take positions again. So it's not looking good at the moment. But when you're looking at these maps, of course, when a move is in progress, we're not going to get the insight we need, unfortunately, because of course people, what you'll see is if you see Bitcoin find its feet, say for example, it finds its feet at this current level, 84.5, right? And it stabilizes. You'll then see other buyers start to fill these areas, right? But once it's stabilized, right now, no one's going to take a position until Bitcoin is stabilized. So what you'll probably see is if it stabilizes at its level, you'll start seeing buyers start putting additional positions on, approaching 81K in this area. And that will, of course, shore up that as a buying opportunity. But right now, people will be running scared a little bit and waiting to see what happened or what's happened. So that's essentially what I'd say about that. Hope that was helpful. Let me just try and switch back off to that. There we go. Okay, so I think we'll leave it there for now, folks. Great to have you here. Thanks for everyone across multiple platforms for joining us. It's been a pleasure. Difficult week, very challenging week. FOMC weeks typically are, but it's not really that which has been causing a lot of the problems. So key takeaways: make sure you are not trying to catch a falling knife. Make sure you are looking for structure before you enter, and you have to consider and bear in mind, of course, that when the market is just going up and resetting, that's your approach. Right? Don't think, well, it's a double bottom, it's broke out, I enter on the neckline. Don't think that way, right? Look at what the price action is giving you and then adapt. And if you don't get your entrance, then you're safe. You don't lose anything by not getting your entrance. But if you come in overextended, or you ignore what the market is giving us, these stop-start moves, then you'll end up in positions you don't want to be, and things will roll over and you'll be left holding the baby, and we don't want that. So that's my advice for today. But pleasure to be here. Lots of opportunities around the corner for sure, right? And again, just make sure you've checked out James's trade update video from earlier today. It's really cool. And of course, I'll be back tomorrow with Altcoin Gems. Maybe not with Solana now, which is a shame. I've been working all day on that thumbnail. And James, of course, will be back on Sunday for his amazing Sunday night live stream. So make sure, of course, you check that out. But that's it for now. Take care, and thanks for joining me. I'll be back next week. It's been a pleasure. Take care.